Hello and welcome, I'm Dave. Today we will learn about an easy way to upload images in Next.js using the app router and API routes. And I'll provide links to all resources in the description below. I'll also provide a link for you to join my Discord server where you can discuss web development with other students and you can ask questions that I can answer and receive help from other viewers too. I look forward to seeing you there. Today is all about quickly adding image uploads to your Next.js app, and we'll be using the app router and API routes. You can use an upload button, or you can use a drag and drop approach. I'll be giving you the code for both. Let's take a look after we create a new Next.js app. Okay, I've got VS Code open, and I've opened a terminal window. So let's type npx create-next-app at latest, and it's going to ask us a series of questions here. And the first one is, what is the project named? I'm going to call this upload because we can actually upload more than just images with it, but I'm going to focus on images. After that, we'll use TypeScript, yes to ESLint, yes for Tailwind, yes for the source directory, and yes for the app router. And we won't customize the imports, but of course we will use them. So that will just have the basic that we're always used to with Next.js. And this will quickly install and then we'll get started. We'll be using UploadThing today. You can see here in the top left that it's still in beta, but they've been adding more documentation and that's a good thing. I think it's working well. So let's go ahead and apply that to our project today for quick and easy uploads in Next.js. So first you need to sign up and then sign in. If you haven't signed up already, I'm going to just sign in because I did already sign up, and you can just do that with GitHub. It's quick and easy, and we should be in here in a basic area here where we can create up to 2 apps. So go ahead and create a new app after you sign up and sign in. Of course, it's free. And once you do that, you'll just name it. So I'm going to name this just test-app today. And this is optional, so you don't need to apply a URL right now. And we'll go ahead and create that app. Okay, now we have a nice dashboard here for UploadThing, and let's click this Getting Started link where it says Read More. The first thing you need to do is install the packages. So you can see we have a line of code right here where we're going to install just a few things. You can just click the copy icon. Now let's head back to VS Code. Back in VS Code in our project, I'm going to Control and backtick to open a terminal window again. I'm in Windows. It may be different if you're on Mac or Linux, but I can just right click and paste that line of code in that I copied from the docs. Press enter, and we'll install these dependencies. After the install, they'll be listed in your package.json file. Back in the documentation, the second step under getting started is to add the environment variables. It lists one right here, but we're actually going to need a couple. Also notice this note here. If you're not applying through Vercel, you may need to apply another one, which is an UploadThing URL. So if you're not going to use Vercel to deploy the use of UploadThing, make sure you note this as well. To get our environment variables, let's go to the dashboard link. And now that we're at the dashboard link, we're going to go into our test app we created. Then I'm going to click on API keys. And they give both that we need right here. And you can again just copy those by clicking this. Now let's go back to VS Code. Back in VS Code, here at the top level, same level we have our package.json, we need to create a new file, name it .env.local. And here's where we'll go ahead and paste these API keys. Now I can press Alt-Z to wrap this down. So the first one's very long. Now I'm going to delete this project after this tutorial, so no trying to use my keys as they won't work. However, you want to do the same thing that I just did to create your keys in your own .env.local and save that file. We're back at the UploadThing website. We can close this dashboard where we got our API keys, and now we're looking back at the docs, which you see the docs do support a dark mode, which I'm using. The rest of the site does not currently that I've seen. That would be nice if they did. And let's go ahead and move on to setting up the Next.js application. And down here is the link, and you can use the old version of Next.js with the pages router, or you can use the new app router, and that's what we're going to do. So while we're here, it says create your first file route, and you see the code here for app/API/uploadThing/core.ts. So we're going to need to create this in our project, and we can copy all of this code, and then we'll go over what it does. Now let's go back to VS Code and start making our project a little more customized with the things we need. So we know one of the first things we need is in the app directory, we're going to want to create another directory named API. And then in the API directory, we're going to want an UploadThing directory. And then inside of this directory, the first file we had was core.ts. And this is where I'm pasting the code that we just got from the documentation. And we will go back over this, but let's go ahead and set up the rest of our project before we head back to the docs. So inside the app directory, I'm going to create another directory, and I'm going to call this upload-button so we can look at an example of the upload button application. And then I'm going to create another one in the same level here. I'm going to call this upload-d&d for drag and drop. Now that we have both of these directories, let's go ahead and create basic pages inside of each. So page.tsx, we can RFC, and we get our basic application here. I just used that shortcut with ES7 React snippets, and we could call this upload D&D for this component. And now when we create a page here for the upload button, we'll of course call it upload button. So we'll RFC once again, and then we'll call this page component upload button. But as I think about this component name, it may actually conflict with what we get from UploadThing. So instead of just upload button, let's call it upload button page, just so I don't have a duplicate name in there. And now I want to put links to both of these paths in our main page, and we'll just use what's provided with the basic project already. So let's just scroll down below the image that we'd have here, not that for cell logo, but this one right here, the Next.js logo that is 180 wide by 37 for the height. And let's just create a section to put our links here. So I'm going to have a div, and I'm going to apply a few classes here. So flex, justify-evenly, and also w-full. And that put the Tailwind classes on there for me. Now inside of here, we're going to have links, which I believe the link was already imported for this example page. And let's go ahead and link to both of those routes. So this will go to /upload-button. And we could say upload button here. And then let's go ahead and put in one more link. And this will go to /upload-d&d. But upload, drag, and drop here. And it is possible that link is not imported yet, as I see the red squiggly here from TypeScript. So let's go to the top and see if we need to import it. And yes, we do. So let's import link, comes from next link. And now we should be good if we scroll back down and check out those links. So these will show up on our page just so we can click and go check each path or use each different feature. Okay, with this much in place, let's go ahead and run our app so we can just check it in the browser to make sure everything is working as expected so far. So now I'll control click on the localhost 3000, and it should start up the basic project that you get with Next.js. So here's our basic Next.js project, and you can see we now have a link to upload button and a link to upload, drag, and drop. So we can check those, although they're blank pages that just say page right now. But our links are working, so we should see anything apply as we go ahead and modify the code for our project. Back in VS Code, let's go back to this core.ts that is in our API/UploadThing directory. Now there's lots of notes they include here, lots of comments to go along with this file. So let's just work through it quickly. They give us a fake auth function, but essentially where you would want to apply auth if you were using it or to get that auth data. Here they're grabbing the authorization ID or the user ID, and they're just calling it fake ID. So they're going to call that in here in the middleware where you would do that, but this really doesn't do anything with this example. Notice they are importing create upload thing and a type file router, and then they are creating an upload thing and just calling it F here, probably short for file. But let's just go with that now and go into our export const our file router. Now this creates a file router and it can have more than one route. We're going to look at one route first and then I'll show you how you can add others as well and a few examples of that. So here's the file router for your app, and as it says, it can contain multiple file routes. Define as many file routes as you would like, each with a unique route slug. Here's the route slug, image uploader. Now notice here it says image and it's giving a max file size for the images at 4 megs. Now different values can be applied here, and I believe it's a literal type, so they're specific on what values you can put in here. Now besides max file size, if you want to be able to, and here we can see those actually when I hover over max file size. Besides that, if you want to be able to select more than one image, for example, with this image uploader, you can also put in a max file count. If not, it's going to default to only allow you to select one. So let's put in a max file count here, and I'll make that 10. Now let's look at the middleware that is chained. Notice the dot middleware here, so it's chained, and this is where they'd put that auth function. Likewise, you can say if you aren't authorized, you're throwing an error, and then they're just returning that user ID here, which once again would be fake ID in this example. So that's all they're using this middleware for, is to just check the authorization. That's going to be important because if you're using some other type of authorization to protect routes, you're not going to be able to protect that route for UploadThing because it has a callback that their service needs to be able to access as well. So you need to leave that open, but then you want to make sure that the route is authorized, for example. So this is the way you would do that. Now here's the onUpload complete, and this runs on your server after the upload. So right now it's just going to log to the console, upload complete for user ID. Note which console we're talking about here. This runs on the server. So you're going to see this in your terminal like you would for Node.js, not in your browser console. And then they're going to console log the file URL. Now we talked about possibly adding more routes to this. It says you can add as many as you want as long as they have a unique route slug like we see here with image uploader. So let's look at some examples of this in the docs. Okay, we're back in the UploadThing docs, and I'm going to go to the API reference and click on the server tab down here. Now let's scroll down to where we see file routes, and you can see they have an example file router and it has several different routes. Here's one called profile picture that only accepts images. Here's one called message attachment that accepts images and videos. A strict image attachment, so it has a max file count of 1, a max file size of 2 megs, so it's strict. It's only images as well. Here's a media post, so image and video as well. So there's several different ones here, and we could just take one of these examples. So let's just grab this last one that says media post, and we'll grab this and put it in our code. There is one correction here, and I know this just from working with the docs. This 200 megabytes value isn't actually allowed. So I know it's in their documentation, but once we get it in our code, the types set for that, the values that are acceptable, it won't accept that one. So let's go back to VS Code and put this extra route in our file route. Okay, back in VS Code, we've got the image uploader right here, and it's using our UploadThing that we created here called F. So we come down here and there is a comma, and now we can just put in this next route, and I can save this, but notice we do have an issue with the max file size. As I said, that size isn't allowed. So let's look at what is allowed, and it says up to 21 more. Now we could dive into the types, which we could do in the node modules here. Let's take a quick look. We go node modules, scroll all the way down to UploadThing if you want to see what values they have in there, which is good to do, especially as something's being developed, because you might find some things that aren't documented yet, and I did find one or two. So now that we're in there, let's open the dist folder, and we want to go to types. Let's find that, types.d.ts. Oh, I believe I need to open up the source directory as well. There we go. Now types.d.ts. Here we are. We found a lot of things. Now there's a couple of things that we should note here. One is, let me press Alt-Z so this code wraps down. In the docs, it says images, video, I believe audio and blob are acceptable, but also text and PDFs can be uploaded with UploadThing that they have in here. So here are the different values that we can put in. Notice 200's not in there, so we could put in maybe 256 and our TypeScript problem would go away. So just highlighting where you can find these types for UploadThing in your node modules, and that can help you discover a few things like we just did about a couple of other file types that are acceptable and maybe some values that we could add to use here instead of 200 megs. So let's go ahead and say 256 megabytes, and now no red squiggly, no error here. So just change that note as well here in the comment. And now we've added a second route to our file router. So we have our image uploader and we also have a media post, and we could refer to either one where it's needed, and I'll show you how that's used very shortly. Back in the documentation, we kind of detoured to the API reference to look at this example, but let's go back to the app router setup. Let's scroll down to where we were. We've created the core.ts and reviewed that, and now we need our route.ts. It's very simple overall, and we can once again just copy this code. So let's copy this, and we'll go back and create the route.ts. Back in VS Code, we want to create route.ts in this same spot here. So API/UploadThing, and then we'll create it right beside our core.ts file here. So route.ts, and now let's paste in that code we got from the docs. And you can see we're importing create next route handler from UploadThing/next, and then we're importing that file router that we created in our core.ts file. And then we're just saying, hey, use the file router we created here in this route. Now back in the docs for this route.ts file, we really want to emphasize here, this is the only file where the path really matters. So it specifically has to be right there in the API/UploadThing/route.ts. Also, make sure you don't block that with your auth, because it's going to need to be able to use that webhook and the callback. So their service needs access to that file. Now remember, you can call auth in your middleware, but you can't block the path to the file. Now let's scroll down, and it says use the file router in your app, and it gives an example here of a client component using the upload button. And that's right here. We can also get this example, and of course this is the end of this page. We could also get this example in the API reference here under React, and they show an upload button here. So there is no copy here, I guess. Let's just go back and let's copy the code that they gave us at the bottom of this page. There's the copy. So we're using that, and let's go back to VS Code and put this on our upload button page. We're back in VS Code. Let's make sure to click the page under upload button for that path. And now let's go ahead and just select all, and we'll rename the component again here. So I'm going to paste everything in that we got from the docs, press Alt-Z to wrap any code down. And now let's make a couple of changes. And so this isn't going to be the home component. Let's once again call this upload button page. And now let's look at any other issues we have, and one is an import here. So we don't quite have the right path for the import. We actually need to go up one directory, and that means we need a second dot right there. After we do that, the file router import is just fine. Notice we're also importing some styles from UploadThing here to help style the button that they're giving us for this page. We're importing their upload button as well. And now as we come down here, they've also provided a few Tailwind classes already. So everything's pretty much in place. Now we might make some changes to this. Let's go ahead and save it and check out our app in the browser. We're back in the browser. I'm going to click the upload button link from the home page, and now we have our upload button. And notice it took the settings already, and it says images up to 4 megs, max of 10, meaning max of 10 images. So it also displays those restrictions we've put on our upload button. So now we can choose a file. So let's just look at the basic behavior from their example. I'm going to choose this Zod logo here and click open. It instantly gives us a spinner. It's uploading the images and then gives us an alert when it is complete. And that's all we get. So let's make a couple of changes to make this look a little nicer. We'll keep them simple though. Back in VS Code, let's scroll to the top of our upload button page. We're going to bring in a couple of more imports here. So I'm going to import useState from React. And I was hoping to find it there, but let's go ahead and start with the curly braces. useState, and that will come from React. And then I also need to import link from Next.js, and that comes from next link. Okay, after both of those are imported, let's scroll down just a little bit and use state here inside the component. So I'm going to say const, and here we're just going to do images. So I'll say images and comma, and here I'll say set images. Let's set this equal to use state. Now we're going to need to put a type on this here eventually as well, and it's going to be an array. Now let's scroll down into our upload button component here, and let's look at this response. What is it supposed to be, or what type do we have? So here we have an object with a file URL and a file key, and it's in an array or undefined. So let's go ahead and expect this response here through the array, and we'll copy that. And now where we have use state, let's go ahead and put that type here. So inside of our less than, greater than symbols, we will put the type in there and show that it is an object that has file URL and file key. But I shouldn't have copied this res right here. Let me just get rid of that, and it should be happy there. Now we have the exact type of our state. Let's also change one class here from the classes they gave us for Tailwind. Instead of justify between, let's make this justify start. So we just put everything towards the top of the page. And now let's go ahead and create just a little bit of content to put on the page that we can show as well. So first I'm going to have a title. I'm going to set this equal to checking our state, which is images.length. Now we know we have an empty array, so we can at least call length either way, even if we don't have anything in that. And we'll make a ternary here. So I'll use parentheses. I'll use a React fragment here. And inside of this fragment, I'm going to have a paragraph and say upload complete, and then one more line. And here we'll put another paragraph. I'll give it a class name of margin top -2, just a little bit of space there. And we'll put in the images.length, essentially showing how many files we have and putting files after that. So that'll just be at the top after the button, after we've uploaded some images. Now here we can say, if there is no length, we can just return null. Okay, after our ternary, let's go ahead and create our list. So we'll list the files that are uploaded after it's successful. So I'll call this image list. And here we'll put some parentheses so we can break this down to other lines. And the first thing I'm going to do is put a React fragment again. And then inside the fragment, we'll start with the title we just defined above. And after the title, we'll need an unordered list. And then inside the unordered list, let's map over the images. So we'll have images.map and each image, and we'll come here and use another parentheses. Now inside of this, let's go ahead and put our list item, and let's give it a class of margin top -2 as well. We're also going to need to provide a key here. So let's make the key equal to the image.file URL that we should receive. So each one of those should be unique also. Now inside of the list item, we're going to provide a link that we already imported from Next.js. And let's set this href where it links to the image.file URL, not fire, file URL. And then after that, let's give the target equal to _blank. So we open up a new tab. So we're not really getting rid of our app when we go navigate to view the image either. And now let's look at the image.file URL here for display as well. So not only are we linking to it, we're displaying the URL as the link. And then finally, let's just take this image list and we'll display it. It's created underneath everything else. So still in the main element here, inside of the main element, but after the upload button, we'll put in our image list. And now before we try to check results in the browser, we need to take advantage of using state because we haven't set our state yet here inside of the functions. So let's do that. Let's check to make sure we have a response first. So we need to say if, and then we'll say if res. Then we're going to take action here. So let's go ahead and put this do something with the response part inside of here because we'll only do something with it if it exists there. Let's go ahead and comment out this alert because that's going to be displayed on the page as well, but I'll leave it in here for you so you can see it in the course resources. And then let's go ahead and do a couple of other things. We need to set the state, so we'll set images to res, And then let's also define some JSON, because that's really what I want to see inside of the console if we log to the console. So I'm going to say JSON stringify, and here I'm going to pass in the response. And then where it says files and res, we'll just delete that and we'll just log the JSON right there. Okay, with these changes in place, I think we're ready to check it all out in the browser. I'm back in the browser and we're on the upload button page. Let's reload just to be safe. Probably not necessary, but I like to do that just to make sure I've got my changes there. Now let's go ahead and choose files to upload. I'm going to choose Kansas Cities and Lasso. I'll open those up. Let's see what we get on the page if the upload is successful. So we've got our upload complete. It says there were 2 files and it lists both files. So here's the URL for both. We can click one of them and then it opens up the image. Hey, the Big Lebowski as applied to Kansas. So we see the image here on its own URL. We can come back to the app as well. Now let's do the same for our drag and drop page, but it won't take nearly as long. We are back in VS Code. I'm just going to copy everything on our upload button page with Control-C after I use Control-A to select all, and then go to the upload D&D path, which is drag and drop here. I'm going to select all once again with Control-A and then use Control-V to paste everything in. I'll scroll up here and rename the component once again, so I'll call this upload D&D, and then we're just going to change a couple of things on this page to use the drop zone instead of the button. So instead of upload button, this is going to be upload drop zone that we get from UploadThing/React. And now we can scroll down here, and where we previously had upload button, we're just going to change this to upload drop zone. And that's just about all the changes we need to make. Now, I do want to highlight one thing that I didn't mention as we created the previous page. Here's the endpoint, image uploader. So that's where the slug goes. So if we wanted to change to our other slug that we put in, our other endpoint in our file router, this is where that name would go. So maybe you would create an upload for PDFs and text files, and you could have a different route for that, and you would have a different name for that. So with this saved, let's go back to the browser and check out our drop zone. Back in the browser, I'm going to go to the home page first, so I'll just go to localhost 3000. Now let's click the upload drag and drop link, and here's our drag and drop area, and it says you can also choose files, so I'm going to click choose files. Notice it opens up here to our folder where I could do this. I'm going to try to just drag one over to our drag and drop area, let it go, and I can close this. It says upload 1 file. And of course, we could put more here. It says max up to 10. I'm going to click upload 1 file, and let's see the result after the file uploads. And yes, it says upload complete, 1 files. I guess I could change that so it would just say 1 file if there was only one. But here's the link to that file. Let's go ahead and click. And it's a huge image of Ted Lasso and Coach Beard. So there we go. We've applied both. Okay, we're back in the UploadThing dashboard for the test app that we created. So we're already inside of the application, and this is the dashboard. Notice it says 4 files all time and 4 files uploaded in the past month. We're only using just a little over 7 megs of a free 2 gigs of storage, so this could hold quite a few. And it gives the list of the largest files and recent uploads here as well. So a useful dashboard. We can click over here to Files, and we could look at our files and say we have a duplicate that we want to delete. You can delete the files right here. Now, there are some other features in UploadThing that you could read about in the docs, including if you know the IDs right now, you could send those IDs or those file keys essentially to delete files from an app if you wanted to as well. But it's very easy here in the dashboard. And overall, very useful. Do note that the files are not compressed. They're just as big as what I'd originally sent up. So I said that Lasso file was the biggest. It was 3 megs. It took just a little bit longer. So no compression is applied. So the big question overall after we've applied this, and I hope it's useful in your applications, I do like it, but is it an S3 killer? That's what Theo said when they came out with this, and he might have been joking a little bit, but I don't think so. I think he's saying, hey, this is something I needed. S3 is difficult to work with, and we wanted to make something simple. I think goal achieved. It's pretty good for any kind of small usage, and it's free as it currently is. They haven't figured out a charging process yet. Maybe they will in the future. So let's talk about this. How does it compare to using an S3 bucket? And when I'm talking about S3, that's Amazon storage. and where you would store images or files in the cloud there on Amazon, if you're not familiar. Anyway, one of the major projects I created for a job in the last few years was an image management application, and it used S3, and it was definitely more difficult. I really like how you can easily add UploadThing to an app quickly. That said, there's some features that S3 provides in its SDK that aren't here yet. Maybe they wouldn't be here as a free app. And the biggest missing feature for me is really just a get all addition. They have some server utilities. If we look back at the docs and you can go to server, scroll down, I talked about being able to delete files. So here's their delete files. Here's the get file URLs. So you need to have a file key essentially, or a file name to get some of this information in return. It would be nice to not need those and just be able to request all of them. Or if you had, say, hundreds of files, maybe you would get a paginated response as well, something like that. And I can do that with S3. I'm not able to do that with this right now, but really that's a small limitation compared to how easy this is. And once again, it's free. If you're interested in a good breakdown of how UploadThing works behind the scenes, one thing is they open source all of this already. So if you go back to the very home page, if we go to UploadThing here, I'd have to log out probably to see it. Let me sign out. And now it said announcing our open source release, so you could check that out. Also, there's a great video by Josh Tries Coding where he broke this down and created his own version. So maybe you want to really dive in and see how it works behind the scenes. And in the future, I may very well be revisiting the upload topic and creating something from scratch as well. Remember to keep striving for progress over perfection, and a little progress every day will go a very long way. Please give this video a like if it's helped you, and thank you for watching and subscribing. You're helping my channel grow. Have a great day, and let's write more code together very soon.